Hi, I'm Eric Judy.
And I'm Dick Van Dyke. Eric, one of the things that we run into a lot in the media is the statement that commissions are just too high.
It's a lie.
On annuities.
I don't make enough money. No. So
You don't think 10% commissions is enough?
where can I find 10% commissions?
Are they really out there, folks?
Well, not with the companies I work with,
No.
but if anybody knows of a couple of the higher paying commission
10%, 14% we read in the media.
drop me an email. I'd love to know who they are and see if they fit my clients. So
Well, what we really do find typically in the hybrid style, the index, the fixed annuity is in that 5 to 7% range
Right.
as a one-time payout.
if you take your commission all up front,
Right.
and these are commission payments from the insurance company
Right.
to the advisor, it doesn't reduce your principal amount, which is a little different than what it is in the securities world.
And you could take a little less money up front
As a commission,
and take
yeah.
a percentage over time on annuities. Not all the companies allow that, but many of them do now.
Yeah, so you could elect to have a trail. So you take a smaller upfront and then get that trail over either a period of years or for the life of the annuity.
Eric, since a retirement will typically last 20 to 30 years in today's life expectancy, if we just take 20 years as a number to work with, and we take a 5% commission, I mean, you're looking at, over 10 years, that's a 0.5%.
Yeah, so like a quarter.
That's a quarter of a percent a year. Okay,
Right.
now let's switch over to securities. There's a lot of folks out there that
I used to
are in
sell mutual
investments.
funds, so
Eric's securities license here, so I'm going to.
So, and there was a time when I used to represent the mutual fund world, and I would go out and typically, if I sold you an A share, you had to know right up front. Basically, I was taking
about
5% right
yes.
up front. And the bad thing was, if you gave me 100,000, it was only 95,000.
It comes right out, which is different than
Right.
an annuity, because you give 100,000 on an annuity, it all goes into the annuity.
Right. So it's like paying your surrender fee up front.
Yeah.
We know you're coming out eventually.
Did they ever give you a bonus with those?
A bonus? With the surrender fees? I don't. Oh, no on the mutual funds. No. Annuities will give you a bonus, but no, never on the mutual fund side. But
how about from the investment advisor side, where they're charging a fee? Approximately, what's a normal fee in that the advisor earns, not just the total fee structure, but what does the advisor earn?
As an advisor, typically, you price it based off of usually what you're going to have to do for the client. But it's not uncommon in my world, to price about 1% is what's going to come back to me each year from a securities client.
So it could be maybe as low as a 0.5%, perhaps. It could be a little higher than 1%.
Sure.
So if we took that comparison and we said that, maybe let's just take the extreme low side. Let's say maybe about a 0.5%, which is not what most folks, I would say, would get.
No.
Priced into a good active managed portfolio. But if we just took a 0.5%, that's like double what we just said on a annuity over 20 years.
If you're going to price it over that 20-year period, typically you're going to make more in the securities world than you will in the annuities world. Now, if you're going to, replace some annuities or turn them over a couple times, then you have to take that into consideration. But most of the time, you're buying one for retirement. It's going to last you, and that's why they're long-term contracts.
It's the idea of an annuity. It's a long-term. It should satisfy your retirement. And the only reason that you would ever replace it is if you had an annuity that would do a much better job than the annuity that they had. And with these income riders, you've built up such a high income base that it's very difficult to replace that annuity with these newer type annuities.
Right.
So it's not likely you're going to get a second commission.
Exactly. And it's usually because you're going to a different agent who wants to make some money. And so that's where you have to be careful and choose who you're working with.
That's right.
And that's why it's important to choose a good advisor when you first start out and are starting to look at retirement options. So
it makes a big difference. And if we talk about maybe some of the other annuities, Eric, immediate annuities.
Immediate annuities, very small commissions typically.
1%?
1, 2, I've seen up to 3% recently.
Yes,
so that's, there's a rumor there's a 4% out there, but I don't know where that is yet either. So, but
And you can kind of understand the logic on an immediate annuity, why it would be 1 to 3% typically, and there's not much work to it.
No.
And there's not nearly as much work.
It truly is a set it and forget it type of deal, because you're taking a lump sum and you're putting a salary. The insurance company is going to take care of it from that point forward.
The client doesn't need much servicing on that, not like perhaps maybe a hybrid style annuity or just a good fixed deferred
Something that
annuity.
has some changes in the caps every year and has to,
Yes.
you need to have an annual meeting with it. So different on that side.
Right. So let's take a variable.
Variable. They're priced very much the same way as the mutual fund world, where you've got different share classes that are usually related in some ways to the surrender terms. Sometimes
Yes.
you can take, no commission up front, but get bigger trails as an advisor because the surrenders there's no surrender built in. So as the advisor, then you have more incentive to keep in a kind of an ongoing relationship because you don't want them to leave that because you're getting the bigger
Yes.
trails.
Yes.
But again, your pricing structure there is 1 to 1.5% usually on the
Right.
on the trail side.
Right. So realistically, if we went by what the media says, anyone that sells an annuity would be like a very high commission person. But if we really look deeper into it, we might actually switch that around and say, I could make potentially quite a bit more money on the security side than I could on the annuity side.
I think that's a fair statement. Now, you're always balancing out. There's a lot more marketing.
There can always be an exception to the rule, and we're making general statements.
Right. Yeah. Financial products are basically on par when you're looking between 0.5% and 1%. And I think if you're getting the perceived value that you want from your investments and from your advisor, is it a fair price?
Well, and I think that that is really what we have to summarize. Are commissions too high? And I think that if we really look at the past few years, and we haven't really mentioned this yet, but the past few years since the pressure on interest rates have come along and they've reduced some of the benefits on annuities, that they have then reached in and they've pulled the commissions back, and they're now much, much lower than what we've seen in the past.
Yeah, so the media may be a little outdated in some of their proclamations.
Stereotypes.
Yeah, so when it comes to annuities or any investment product, it's really, you don't get anything for free. And,
you have to focus on what the benefit is for you and not be as focused on what someone else is going to benefit if it works for your objective.